Hello, and welcome to the Second Time Founders podcast. So, I am going to attempt to fill in sort of for Kevin, who is out sick with COVID again somehow. He has like a double rebound, I guess, of COVID, long COVID. I don't know. I thought we were done with COVID. So, anyway, we got Andy guest hosting with me, and then our really special guest, Lily Walla. Am I saying your name right?
You are.
Okay, it's hard to screw up. It's not like
Yes.
Moscow. So, but because you two don't even know each other, I don't think, even though I think you're both in New York City, right?
I am in New York City.
Where are you, Andy?
I'm down on the edge of Tribeca. What about yourself?
I'm in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, but I grew up on the Upper East Side. Don't judge me.
I am going to judge you. My parents live up there.
Mine too.
So, Andy, why don't you introduce yourself to Lily, and then we can get into Lily and her background and learn a little bit more about why she is a new second-time founder. A
Well-
newly crowned second-time founder. I don't know how we say it here.
Second timer.
A second-timer.
Well, Lily, it's a pleasure to meet you. Sarah, thank
You
you
too.
for hosting and taking this on. Lily, I've started a couple companies, Nanit, Vowel, and some other stuff. I think what we all have in common is that we've all touched the parenting space, which I think is very unusual for founders in general. So I'd love to learn more about you. I don't know very much myself.
Okay. Thank you for that. I am Lily. I started my career working for Union Square Hospitality Group, Danny Meyer's company, but I did not make it very long. I lasted about 9 months before jumping into the entrepreneurial world and starting my last business, which is called Spots, promotional products geared towards brands. So in the food space, mini cupcakes branded with logos, photos, and messages, dog treats, candy, marshmallows, you name it. We printed on it. We scaled because we did all the personalizing for the edible space for companies like 1-800-Flowers and Chewy. And then in April, I sold that business, and now I am full-time on Village, and it is an exciting journey. I should also mention that I'm a mom to a 2-year-old, which makes it, I guess, a little bit more relevant than you, Andy. But yep, doing it all over again.
So much fun stuff there. And sorry to cut you off, Sarah.
Yeah, no, we're both like ready to dig in.
The East Coast podcast this week.
I'm well, my blood is East Coast, but I'm now West Coast.
Sarah, I listened to you on the last podcast, I think, and about your sports fandom and everything that you follow.
Yes, I am 100% Philadelphia through and through. You can't take me, can't take the girl out of Philly or whatever the saying is. So, Lily, what is Village, and why did you jump right back into starting a company after selling your last business?
Great question. So Village is a baby registry powered by social-based recommendations. So when I got pregnant with my son, Jackson, I was inundated, for lack of a better word, with what I reference as mom guides. They are intense product spreadsheets that new moms write and share with their expecting mom friends. And so we're combining the ability to register with all of that wisdom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's a space I actually kind of know. Shockingly.
Yeah.
And how did you do it?
Nanit on the spreadsheet.
Please
Nanit
put
is
Nanit
on the
front and
spreadsheet.
center.
Nanit are on all the spreadsheets and hanging on my wall in my son's nursery. So we're good on that front.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I think my first question, and just like off the cuff, how did you jump back in so fast? So you sold in April, and it's September. Didn't you want some time off? How do you have the stamina to do this?
Time off is an interesting concept. No, I wanted to find what I was really passionate about, and starting a business at 22, like I did, and ran it for 9 years. That business was bootstrapped and a much different beast than this one. But I never really had the opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do for my career. And so the perspective of becoming a parent and having started another business kind of set me up for what I wanted to do for the long haul. And that's this business. I think also as a consumer, and Sarah, I heard you hit on this last time. You said something like parents are the biggest consumer in the US market. I'm one of them. And the registry platforms out there do not make me feel seen. Plus, there is so much wisdom being passed around via Google Sheets that I'm sure brands like Nanit would kill for. It's a lot of organic referral data.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Babylist and I know Amazon's products, and I know
Hmm.
how hard we had to work at Nana to figure out the buying behavior of a registry product, which is inherently very, very, very unique.
Yeah.
And so I am deeply familiar with the problem you're trying to solve.
Well, we should connect offline and discuss about how we can make a partnership work. Um, yeah, it is an interesting business model. We'll go affiliate to start and then hopefully go into the whole dropship world, which I'm sure you know well as well.
Yeah, that's a world I know less about. That gets more into like Zola and folks like that. I haven't
Yep.
seen as much of that in this world, but I'd love to hear more offline. So I mean, I think the
Yeah.
biggest question in my mind, and then I is you bootstrapped once.
Yep.
What do you think about VC backed startups this time around?
So that is a very good question. Village is a venture backed business. So we are closing our pre-seed round at 1.7 million with NFX taking the lead. So I guess my answer to that question is I feel very good about venture money today. I have yet to have our first like internal meeting with anybody who has invested yet. So TBD how I like those handcuffs, but so far so good. I will say I think the most difficult thing and the mindset that will have to shift a little bit or not, I don't know, is that coming from a bootstrap background, I didn't have like a real operating budget or a real marketing budget. So now that we don't have to be as lean, it's going to be interesting to see what we're capable of.
Well, my guess is that lean background is going to be incredibly helpful for you as you build this
Yeah.
business in this economic and in this venture economy and this economic environment. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, because in the news right now, there's so much YC, Y Combinator news, and apparently they got in a fight with some other incubator, Neo, that I had never heard of until the fight started. I'm curious, did you consider going the like Y Combinator incubator route, as opposed to just raising venture from a pre-seed fund like NFX, or was that not even a consideration?
I got rejected from Y Combinator, so it was a
Oh, damn.
consideration, I
wow.
know, but then didn't become an option, and listen, silver linings, right? I don't think I wanted to give up that much of my company for
Yeah.
the amount of money that they offer, and so I'm excited about our partners like NFX. We have another awesome fund called Mother Ventures investing all
Oh,
in this space, a group of amazing angels. I'm excited to just lean on different people for resources. And I
yeah.
think I know other founders are going to be angry about this. But I told Sarah that I'm a liability having me on this podcast. So here we go. But
Like liabilities.
yeah, I did not have a hard time raising this money. I know you were supposed to get 1,000 no's before you get one yes. That was not the case for me. I like to compare fundraising to dating. Um, but you get to like be slutty and like talk to everybody and it's like not looked down upon and it's fun and it's like wheeling and dealing, and that's kind of my not the slutty part, but the wheeling and dealing part is the part that I enjoy. Sorry also to my husband who needs to hear this. Um, But yeah, I loved fundraising, and we had a really successful fundraise, and it was hard in the networking way, but it was a blast in the getting people to say yes
I mean, I've gotta
way.
believe being a second-time founder, that has had a successful exit, has helped a lot with fundraising because the initial rounds, people are betting on you and, they're seeing that you've been a success. I mean, Andy, how was that the same experience for you raising for your second company?
It was actually. I was gonna say something slightly different. I was gonna say maybe Lily's just amazing and her idea is
Yeah.
incredible, but
Yeah, that too, but you're backing a founder, and you gotta be excited about the idea and the market and all of that, but, the founder having it's not a no-name person now, it's someone who's had a success under their belt. I've gotta believe that that makes the deal a lot more competitive.
Yeah, I think it's either you got delusional conviction or you don't. And if you got it, you can sell it. And that's what I got right now. And so TBD when we have to go raise for the next round and actually show some metrics. But raising off of a dream,
Yeah,
that's my sweet spot right now.
uh
love it.
yeah, I mean that's the it's funny. That's either the easiest for you or the hardest for you and you're at one end of the spectrum or the other. And I think you're definitely one of the luckier ones and it sounds like things are amazing. I'll give you a little
Things are good today.
I'll give you an antidote because a quick little pointer. We
Please.
also got rejected from YC at Nanit way back
Mm,
when. And I also, Sarah and I were kind of riffing on this over the weekend. I thought YC was basically like the only incubator out there at this point,
mhm.
more or less. And to see this like whole Twitter war with this thing called Neo that I don't think any of us have ever heard of made no sense to me whatsoever. And I'm sitting there like you could have ignored these people at Neo and nothing would have happened. Now at least the folks at Neo have some kind of platform and we've heard of it.
Right.
Like
Sounds
Marketing,
they got the best the folks at Neo got the best marketing they could ever and press they could ever
for sure.
possibly have. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know who this individual is, but I
I
see
saw the Neo guy follows me on Twitter, so I was like, "Huh,
Sarah is
yeah,
a Twitter
some guy."
celebrity. I'm not as cool as
Well,
her.
Gary Tan, the Y Combinator guy, blocked me on Twitter, and part of Neo's, like, beef with Y Combinator, I guess, was that Y Combinator blocks a lot of people on Twitter, so I tweeted, "Gary Tan blocks me on Twitter, I don't know why," and then he replied to that and said, "Sorry, it's fixed now," and he unblocked me, so
What did you
I'm
say to
not
get blocked? What did you do? Did you trash
I
YC?
I my guess is that they all, like, share some kind of block list, and while I never said anything bad about Gary Tan that I know of, I mean, I don't even really think about him, I probably said something bad about some other dude in power, like that Paul G guy. I've probably not liked him in the past, because he's, like, kind of anti-women. So anyway, they probably share some kind of block list, and, I got picked up in that, but
I
I'm
did
unblocked now.
congrats.
Yeah, happy day.
I did do the YC co-founder matching game thing that
Oh,
they have. That was not helpful for me. So I'm
Interesting.
still a solo founder, I guess is the answer to that question.
What
But which you didn't ask, but that is the
are you
case.
looking for a
Um,
co-founder? Maybe we
yeah,
have
should we
one
put
for
the word
you.
out?
I don't know the answer to that anymore. In the past, it was 100% yes. I didn't think I wanted to do it again. But now that I'm in it and building the right team, I'm happy to be at the helm solo
Yeah.
right now.
Well, for anyone out there listening, you can slide into Lily's DMs and she
Yeah,
she may be open to it.
I may be open to it.
Well,
Yeah, especially if you're technical, I guess I will add.
for all the technical folks out there. I think it's very interesting. I think this incubator topic in itself is something that's worth exploring because I'm at the place, I've never done YC, but I have immense respect for the program. I think I know a lot of people who have done it and had incredibly good outcomes. Um, and typically, when I meet young, inexperienced founders or people without a network or people from abroad, my first advice to them and they're struggling to raise is do YC I've never
Right.
said to anyone under the sun, do anything besides YC because it's
Mhm.
expensive money at the end of the day. In YC, you know what you're getting. You're getting that network. Um, I said it over the weekend. It's sort of like applying to Harvard. Once you get it, you're there. That it's up to you then to make something about it. There's still a lot of people who
Right.
graduate Harvard who don't do anything great with their life, but I'm sure that 10%, the top 10% of Harvard is incredible. That's my guess. I didn't go to Harvard. And so I always send everyone there. I'm curious of your thoughts, Sarah. You have seemed to have some interesting perspective. I definitely wouldn't send them to
Yeah.
Neo.
Right. So I do think like if you're going to do an incubator, you should do a top one. And there's not just YC, there are others and there are some like niche ones as well for certain industries. So I don't think they're the only game in town. But for us, when we were kind of, 8 years ago, when we were deciding what route to go, we were incredibly well networked in Silicon Valley, like, having worked at Twitter and Google and all other startups, like we felt like the network was not our problem. And I mean, like you guys, the pre-seed round was actually pretty easy to raise comparatively for us. Um and it was a lot of equity that you have to give up. And then the other thing was it was a big commitment in terms of the program, and we were both new moms and had a lot of responsibilities, and you have to be in person. I don't know if that's still the case. So it just didn't really make sense logistically. So I feel like a big thing is like, do you have that network already, or are there other ways you can tap into it? And two, are you going to make the most out of it, because you're giving up a ton of equity for very little money? So you better be like able to really capitalize on that opportunity. And we were like, no, we have too much going on, that we need to just focus on building the business and, you know, doing our lives as like new moms. Uh, it's actually interesting because, like, I feel like now something like YC for like a growth stage business would actually be interesting. Like, I have a lot more time to network. We have a team in place. I obviously can't
You
give
know
up.
what your business is?
Yeah, I know the kinds of challenges we have and like where we need help getting to the next level and where we could really take advantage of a network. Something like, YC with the amount of equity they take wouldn't make sense even if they would accept us now. But I've tapped into networks like YPO is a great example of one I'm very involved in and has been really helpful. Kind of different network because it's not as focused on just your company as like all the parts of leadership. But um, I do feel like networks can be really helpful when you can take advantage of what they have to offer. And if you're not going to do that, like you said, don't give up all your equity.
So, what is YPO, Sarah? I've heard
Oh,
people talk about it over the years.
yes.
I don't know enough about it.
So it's Young Presidents Organization, I think it stands for, which is, my brother always makes fun of me because you like age out when you're 49. So he's like, that's not young. You're not young, Sarah. But I'm still young at heart. But it's, for people running, you have to be the CEO or president of your business. The business has to be of a certain size. So, a certain number of employees, certain amount of revenue, um, certain valuation. So, there's kind of all these different measures. And it's a global organization. So, every kind of city has a chapter in San Francisco. In the San Francisco Bay Area, there's like 5 or 6 different chapters because there's so many people with businesses. Um, but you kind of get the most out of your chapter and your small group within your chapter called a forum that you meet with every month. So it's like 10 other CEOs you meet with, and then your chapter is like 75 people that you go to events with and have kind of this network. But I've found it really valuable because it's these, 75 really successful CEOs that are running all different kinds of businesses that I can tap into for advice and connections and all sorts of things. Plus, just like awesome people that I generally just enjoy being around. So I've found that super valuable. But it is one of these like you have to put in to get out of it.
Interesting.
So if you are interested in YPO, let me know and I'll connect you.
I know it's very regional, and I've always heard very positive
It's
things.
definitely in New York too. I can guarantee there's chapters. Ooh, we lost Lily. Uh-oh. Hopefully
We are back.
we're back and better than ever. We were just talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants.
I have nothing to
We will
add
get back to startups.
besides the fact that my household is very dark these days with what went down with Aaron Rodgers. Not, I'm not dark, but my husband is.
Okay. Anyway, back to company building, second time founding. One question I have is like, what are the things you are definitely going to do differently this time around? Like big mistakes that you won't make this time, or things that you're just like definitely going to avoid?
Well, I'm gonna start by getting a new computer. I mean, that's obviously number one.
Yeah.
The second thing I think I will try to do is, given the nature of my last business and just like the level of talent I needed to hire for it, it was much different than the leadership team I need to build for Village, because we were a perishable consumer business. We had fulfillment operations people and bakers and a staff made up of amazing people, but it just wasn't this caliber of a business. And so what I will try to do better is learn how to lead a team of people that are smarter than me, hopefully, and try to motivate them and encourage them every step of the way to build a $1 billion business.
Actually have
Love
a
it.
actual to this. I think if you can lead a team of more of operationally intensive folks, you can easily lead a team of smarter people, smarter than you knowledge workers.
That's
I think
encouraging,
it's
Andy.
much yeah. I think it's much easier
I can't
than
wait to find out, because I don't know if it changes, but I was doing a lot of adult babysitting that was time consuming. Does that ever change?
that mostly goes away.
Okay, cool.
You have the right people,
Okay.
in my opinion. I don't know if Sarah feels differently about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the reasons, especially we are fully remote and we don't hire new grads uh really ever. Um and it's really because of that. Like I can't teach people how to work, and I don't think this is really the best environment to teach people how to work at a job. Really, people that come and work for Winnie need to be self-motivated. They need to, know how to find the right things to work on and prioritize their time accordingly. Like, of course, we still do, quarterly planning and sprint planning and all these things that help folks kind of make sure they're working on the right stuff. But I can't micromanage people, and we don't have the headcount or
For sure.
resources to micromanage people. So everyone really needs to be in charge of themselves and a self-starter and kind of really smart about how they work as well.
Yeah, we kind of, before I got cut off, we were talking about YC and the network. And Andy, you kind of mentioned that if you don't have the network you can tap, or if you're not from here, it makes sense to lean on YC. I think like it's one of those things where I just need to hire like extensions of me, and I have the network. So if I can just build a team that I can trust, hopefully the network I built will unlock a lot for Village. I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
Well, coming on this podcast was definitely the first step. Uh,
absolutely.
and I think secondarily, you're starting a company at a great time. There is incredible talent out there, is what I've seen compared to compared to hiring in 2021 or 2022. So I think you're going to be really successful, and I don't know you very well, but you seem like an awesome person to work with, at least just from the witty banter on this podcast.
I do
I
enjoy
guess
some
the interest
banter.
what I wanted to tap in on is something that Sarah said, and it's you don't hire new grads, and we didn't hire new grads at we don't hire new grads at Vowel either. I mean, that's not something we ever did. We basically hired senior engineers. We very rarely focused on training people, and I think it's very common that mentality in a remote first culture. And so
Yeah.
if everyone's doing this remote first, how do new grads find great jobs? I mean, it's an interesting question that I hadn't really thought about until you said it.
Well, I don't think new grads should work at startups. Like, with some exceptions, I think it's not the best job when you're just graduating college or grad school and learning how to work. I, consider myself a really hardworking person. When I worked for other companies, I was super dedicated. But my first year at Google, like, I just had no idea what I was doing. I was just like bumbling along, trying to figure out, like, no one was assigning me work. I had to like prove my value to work on stuff. And I got the hang of it, but it took like a year. And I don't think they got a lot of productivity out of me that first year. But, that's okay for a company like Google. They can kind of absorb that and they're investing in someone for the long run. Um, but startups can't, and they don't have people to train you and make the most out of you and teach you how to do stuff. So, you're just not even going to learn how to do it at a startup because there's
Yeah.
no one there to really even mentor
Yeah.
you.
I agree with you
Um,
there 100%. I always joke that I don't know what people do at work, but the reality is it's actually not a joke.
yeah,
I was based out of KKR's like catering kitchen, my first job out of college via Danny Meyer, but like I didn't get to see what people did at work. And then I started my company and I didn't know what we needed to hire for. I didn't even know like what a brand person did or what a product person was. And my husband
right.
was at Uber for 8 years and I like still don't understand what he did. Like there were 1,000 other people doing exactly what you did at Uber. It's bizarre. And actually that is a big hurdle that I'm having now as I think through the team that we need and something I'm going to have to learn. But I kind of wish I had that foundation of experience from a company that truly could have taught me what people do at work.
Yeah, it was really nice working for Google because you could see all these different roles and like learn what they are. And then, I went to Twitter, which was much smaller at the time when I joined, and they didn't have like most of those roles. But I at least knew like the gaps people should be filling in. Like, oh, if there's no lawyer on every product you're launching, then you as the product manager should probably think through if there's anything like illegal you're
Yeah.
doing because you don't have it go through legal review. And then when I went to an even smaller company, Postmates, and there was like no role. It was just a handful of people. I was like, oh, to launch a product, you need to write the blog post to announce it. And like, it was good that I had known that because I had seen that there were entire armies of people that do that for you at somewhere like Google. And so I knew, okay, now this is something I'll just do myself. And now, to my own company, I kind of have a sense of like what those different roles are. So I always recommend, even though it doesn't serve me well, because it means less talent available for me, I always recommend, like, if you're trying to learn the ropes, go to
Yeah.
a big company, see what all the jobs are, and watch really skilled people do those jobs so that you kind of have a better sense when you go to a startup of what the work is to even
Yeah,
be
that
done.
kind of
Yeah.
taps a little bit into the like culture. I think when I was an intern for Union Square, I interned all throughout college every summer and being in that home office, like I drank the Kool-Aid. Like I wanted to be there. And it's a big concern. And like Danny Meyer hired 51 percenters and like we all referred to ourselves as 51 percenters. It was like people who had 51% skills that were like EQ and intuitive and then the skills you can't teach, and then 49% like technical, whatever that you can teach. And as I think through remote work and the type of team I want to build, it makes me nervous that if we were to go remote only, that one, they don't have like people they can turn to learn, because we're not like a big
Yeah.
Google, right? It's kind of just like a wear many hats. But then if you have that plus no work culture, then how do people really collaborate? And I don't know the answer to it. I'm curious your thoughts.
So I would take it like this. Somebody once told me when you start a company, you're actually creating a cult
Mm, yeah.
and you are the cult leader. And I think you just described it by talking about the 51
Yeah.
percenters. That's a term I've never heard before in my entire life, and I'm assuming Danny Myers made it
I'll
up.
send you his book.
Uh,
It's a good one.
I've heard it's an amazing book to
Yeah.
read. I just haven't read. And so at some point in some time, he wrote down this saying, the 51 percenters, and it's passed on from
Mhm.
new hire class to intern class, etc. And I actually think if you do a good job in remote first, you can actually create exactly the same type of culture you want. You just have to do it in much more of a documentation way versus a verbal way.
Yeah.
So we would always focus on onboarding buddies and how we onboard people and who we pair them with and how we hire it. In the first week or two, very structured onboarding. Watch the videos, meet the people, absorb the values, understand our culture, repeat it.
I
And
have the
it's the
chills
same
hearing
way.
you say that.
I've run basically remote almost 10 years, so it's the same way of the indoctrination as Danny Meyer's intern program. You're just not doing it verbally. You're doing it with more documentation and more videos.
Honestly, this is just
And then it
live feedback right now for me, and I'm just gonna take this kind of as like a networking call and get as most out of it as I can. And so what I'm hearing you say, and what I think you probably have is like a superpower to build community. Like it is, I don't think everybody could build culture remotely, but it's a conversation I was having with my husband the other day. And I do think I am one of those people that could set the foundation for remote culture in just like what you were saying, in the way that we speak, in the way that we are kind of like a cult. We are all on the same page, drinking that Kool-Aid. And so I kind of needed to hear that from you to remind myself that like I need to trust myself and what I know that I'm capable of. And like community building is one of my superpowers. And I think I can replicate it digitally. So thank you for that.
just have to write it
Yeah.
down. Or this day and age, you can dictate it and
Yeah.
transcribe it.
It is important, and I think, like, especially when dealing with parents, because there's so much judgment and there's just so much noise that, like, how you talk to your consumer is hopefully for us gonna be super intentional, and I just wanna be able to bring that through to the culture that we we build on the back end too. Like, I just wanna be intentional about everything that we're doing to make as many people as we can feel seen. So, we'll see.
I also think there's like a lot of benefits of being remote that help my business. We have employees, I think, in like 13 or so different states, even though we're 21 people. We're really spread out. And it's helpful because there are so many nuances of parenting and childcare in these different areas that we're kind of able to just naturally tap into with our employee base.
Mhm.
So I will say something that is just, I think it's commonplace in where I live in San Francisco. And then someone, an employee in Atlanta will be like, "What are you talking about? Like that has nothing to do
Yeah,
with
it's
how we do things
fascinating.
here." Um, and so it's sort of nice to not have such a, just a culture where everyone is the same and we all look the same, we all have the same background and we all live in San Francisco and have the same like just micro view of the world. It's nice that we can kind
Yeah.
of tap into like, oh, I'm in DC and this week like school was actually canceled because it's too hot out. I'm like, oh, that might affect our traffic there. People are dealing with this heat and can't do anything else. So it's just you kind of get these advantages by tapping into some of the local culture um, by being remote. Of course, there's all these challenges with communication and building, your internal culture and all that, but there are so many
For sure. And
advantages
I
too.
think like being a platform for parents, we need to be flexible and that has to go into for our employees too. And so it's something I am actively thinking about every day. And yeah, of course, I'm leaning towards remote because that's just the nature of today's world. And I just hope I can do it successfully.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will.
Thanks, Angie.
Yes. We We
Yeah,
love
I
remote
know. We were
here.
talking about that, Sarah. And in some ways, I have been remote since I started Spots because we had a kitchen. But then for business work, I would come home and I learned how to do that. And sounds like you did.
I mean, I still think, just not to, uh, I still have a view though that like it's good for me to live in San Francisco. Um, so, people will like ask me like why I haven't like moved back to Philadelphia where all my family is, and cost of living is a little bit better, and I have a lot more support, and like I do think there's something to be said for as a founder being here. I don't believe my entire team
Yeah.
has to be here though to reap those benefits, but I feel like I just have a network that I wouldn't have, even just like the
Yeah.
parents
A
of
buzz and a
the
relevance
kids
and all of
my
the things that come with in person. Yes.
yeah, and like the type of people I'm connected to are generally like related to my industry. Someone that could be helpful to me. Um, and I don't know that I would have that in Philadelphia where like, everyone works for Comcast or
Yeah.
something.
Well, it's interesting. So I live in Brooklyn and I basically describe it as like a modern day kibbutz. We live in a building that has 26 apartments. 23 of us, I think, have kids under 3. I do a nanny share with my
Wow.
upstairs neighbor. I am like in and out of people's apartments all the time. It's like freshman year of college. And so it's kind of interesting because when I've been pitching this business, I've been saying like at Village, what I want to replicate virtually is the feeling that I have physically at home in our building and like the ability to raise our kids together. And so
Wait, I'm moving. Okay,
oh
you
yeah,
just convinced me to actually
I
move to
swear I
Brooklyn
live in the
into this
best neighborhood
apartment
in the
building.
world. Um,
Not Philly, but it is Brooklyn.
But you're saying like there's other people that might like watch
oh
my
yeah,
kids,
I don't
like
know if I
free
should like
childcare.
admit this, but we monitor share for each other. So like someone will go out to
Via Nanit,
of
I hope.
course. I actually have just a separate
This is
phone just
amazing.
for my Nanit, so I can like drop it off, and I don't need to leave my personal phone. Um,
Ah,
Oh
yeah,
my God,
I'm gonna like have
this
child
is
services like call on her phone.
huge.
Um,
I am like, wow, that
yeah, I've paid
okay.
for a base. My
This
son is
sounds
2,
amazing.
and it's not for lack of social life. I've paid for a nanny probably twice at night.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
All right, I may move there when I
yeah.
have
Come
children in
on
the
over.
future.
We will welcome you
I will
into the
DM you.
tribe. It is a wild experience, and it has opened my mind. I had no idea what it meant to have like, I had no idea how valuable mom friends could be, and community, and a village until I experienced this, and this is, like, not normal, but it is special for sure, and so if we can scale
Wow.
that, and if we do what I'm trying to do right, I think that's the feeling we hope our users feel.
Wow.
Incredible.
Well, that sounds like an amazing pitch for now. I want to invest in your company too, because this is like unbelievable.
Eh, well, we'll talk to Morgan about it, Sarah, because she's my boss
Yeah.
now. Um,
No, investors. So my cousin Morgan is actually invested in her company.
that's
Oh,
how
wow.
we're connected.
The- so that's how I met Lily. But I love my investors, but I definitely don't think of them as my
Yeah.
boss.
I say that in a
I
manipulative way, just to make Morgan think that I
Yeah.
think she's my boss.
Right. And they may think they're my boss, but I think it is really important, that like they understand that it's my business. At the end of the day, I'm going to make the decisions, and
For
I'm going
sure.
to be responsible for, the outcome of those decisions. And I think my investors also feel that too. Like they can give advice and guidance, but it's my decision at the end of the day, and I have to own it, and I have to own, when it doesn't work
Yep.
out too.
Well, Morgan and I
Um,
I
and
hear you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It's not boss, but in some way, it's a partner, of course. And I do want them to feel valued, but also just respect my decision making ability and just trust me to make the best decisions. Morgan and I recently got into it over spending decision that I'm considering. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good
First
gossip.
hire
Well, Sarah
problems.
knows where to get her.
I am curious how you both like think about equity versus cash at this stage when like especially hiring not college grad people, right? Like they have lives, they have responsibilities, they have financial responsibilities, like most importantly. So cash for those people I'm learning is a priority. And so how do you
Yeah.
and I don't disagree. Like I actually heard you talking about this on your last podcast, Sarah. Like I am so cash motivated. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in my mission. I'm both. And so I think even as money as like a driver, I want to hire people that also feel that. Um,
People have to live.
yeah.
That's the bottom line. You're building a company.
Yeah.
You live in, it's expensive. Sarah lives in San
So
Francisco. It's
expensive.
incredibly expensive. I live in New York. We're all living that problem.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, though, if people aren't really motivated for the equity and the big vision
Yeah.
and the big outcome at the early days, the first 5, 10 employees, they're the wrong people. That's not to say they shouldn't be making salaries to feed their families.
Yeah.
But
So for
my view is the first 7, the equity matters. Give it to them.
I know. So you're team Morgan in this argument.
Ah, interesting.
Well, I think you can't, you like, you should be motivated by equity. Obviously, it's your business. You want to make it really valuable. But if other people aren't, like, you can't make them motivated by equity. And I've had hires that are really amazing, and they're just like, the equity isn't that important to me. I don't know how to value
Yeah.
it, and I'll have conversations with them about how to think about it and how to value it. But at the end of the day, they're like, you know what, I care. I want to maximize my cash comp. And for them, like, the equity is still really valuable to me. So I will restructure their offer to be higher on cash comp and lower on equity. When I went to Twitter, they weren't offering me a very high salary, and I knew I probably couldn't negotiate
Yeah.
much on the salary. So I just asked for more equity. And then anytime I was like getting a raise or a comp adjustment, I asked for it in equity. And that was, turned out to be a good thing.
Sounds like it was a good thing.
Lily, how can people find you on the internet or find Village on the internet?
Our official name is Village, maybe. And so right now we are doing social under Baby Rex, RECS. And if you are a parent that are open to being featured on our community, we would love to have you. So send me a DM.
Amazing. All right. I will sign off then. Thanks everyone for joining in. We will be back next week with some more official producing from Kevin. We wish him well.
Feel
and
better,
we
Kevin.
will see you soon.